Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother Malik. How you doing?
Good, good,
Thanks
good.
for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming. I'm always, when people like you, I know we got some ties,
We got
but
ties.
when you able, people like this able to come on your show and have these conversations, it's always a good thing, man.
Well, I'm friends with your grandparents, your father, your auntie, your uncle,
Yeah.
your little cousin who's just off camera. All of y'all Elamines.
For sure.
And even the connected folks like Asim,
Yeah.
others,
Yeah. No, yeah, we go back. We go
We do,
back.
we do.
But how do I address you though? I know
Keith?
Keith. No, but how do we address you? What is your position?
Okay, so my title, which I'm not into no title, but my title is Attorney General.
Okay.
And if you want to talk to me directly, you say General Ellison.
Okay.
Which is weird because when you think of general, you're thinking of some guy with epaulettes on his shoulders and medals and stuff. But you just call me Keith, man, because that's what I go by.
Yeah.
And I love, the highest title that anybody can call anybody else is brother or sister.
Sure, for sure. So tell me a little bit about your background. I want to know where you from.
Well,
how you get here.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I grew up there, and I have four brothers, two older, two younger. My parents they got Southern roots. My mother's from Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana. My father, grew up in Detroit, but his roots are in Georgia, a place called Sardis, Georgia. My family is what they call part of the Great Migration. And that's African American people leaving the Deep South, coming up to the North in search of opportunity. And my grandfather worked in the auto plants on my father's side. My father worked in the auto plants. But then he also was a World War II veteran, even though he entered the military at the age of like 15. He kind of didn't exactly tell the United States military the whole truth about it. But he served, and then he got the GI Bill, went to Wayne State, majored in pharmacy. Then he went to medical school. My father's a psychiatrist.
So what got you to politics?
Who know? Probably my mother's father.
Okay.
My mother's father is a guy named Frank Martinez. And Frank Martinez was organizing black voters in rural Louisiana in the 50s. And they would he was a leader in the local NAACP. They would call the house and threaten and to do stuff to him, and they'd tell my grandmother they had him tied up to a tree and threatened to blow the house up. They boycotted him, wouldn't let him buy gasoline at the local gas station, had to put tractor fluid in this car because he couldn't get, and then they burned across from the house on Lee Street, Robert E. Lee Street, in Natchitoches Parish. Now it's Martin Luther King Boulevard, though. But that's, and so he raised my mom. My mom grew up on a farm in rural Louisiana, and she went to Xavier, which is a college in New Orleans, as my son did, as my brother went to Southern. Then she, had some relatives who had moved north. She came up there on a visit, met my dad, married him, raised us in Detroit.
So he was into politics, so you kind of just watched it?
Not really watched it, because he died before I really grew up. I mean, he died in 58, and I was born in 63. So, but my mom talked about it a lot, and my grandmother talked about it a lot. And when we were down on this place called Cane River in Louisiana, you would hear people say, like, oh, man, I remember Frank and them was organizing, and
okay.
So I kind of was raised
kind of your roots,
kind of the roots, kind of the messaging, you know what I mean? And
so that was in Detroit, or that was
Louisiana? Both.
Okay.
It was in Detroit, Louisiana, and other places, but mostly those two places.
Where'd you start at? Like, what was your first political position?
Well, so I would define politics as anytime you're organizing people in order to gain power to take an action. I think that politics is far bigger than electoral politics, right? So electoral politics, I started doing that when I was like 39 years old, but I started doing politics way before that, right? So organizing people for different things. I started organizing on Wayne State's campus in Detroit. I started organizing. I remember uh, one of the first things I ever worked on was when I heard this guy, and I was like maybe 18 years old, maybe I was still 17, but school started, and this guy gave a speech about South African apartheid, and I was fascinated by what he talked about. They passed out literature. I read it all, and I got active in the Black Student Union at the Wayne State, we started working on getting our college to take its investments out of South Africa, and so that's kind of the first thing I ever actually worked on, getting signatures, filling
What
out
position
petitions.
was that?
That was like when I was working on the petition committee at Wayne State.
But your first electoral position.
My first electoral position, man, I was old, man. I was like 39 years old. I ran for state rep. In fact, I was 34 before I trusted or liked any politicians. It was really a guy named Paul Wellstone who I met and said, this guy has a lot of integrity. This guy believes in what he's doing. It's not just an ego thing for him. So he was one of the people who made me think that maybe I could go into politics and still keep who I was,
But attorney general, that's a lawyer, all right?
It is a lawyer, but I grew up in Detroit, moved here to go to University of Minnesota Law School.
Okay.
Went there from like 87 to 90. Got out of there, all four of my kids were born right on the north side, grew up over here. Your cousin and my daughter were doing Girl Scouts together, and my wife used to teach at the North Community YMCA, and I used to see your dad and your brother, your uncle up there all the time, and so then after I started practicing law, and I practiced law. I ran a place called the Legal Rights Center. First, I had a job at a big law firm downtown. Those folks were great. They were nice to me, but my heart was elsewhere. So then I went to go be the director of the Legal Rights Center, where I was there. I was the youngest person on staff, and I was the boss. And I was there for like 5 years. And then I started a practice with Jeff Hassan and a guy named Larry Reed, Herbert Bonigo, and we were at Hassan and Reed, and I was there for a number of years. And that is when I decided to run for office.
What position was that?
State representative.
State representative. So have you been climbing the ladder? So it's like.
Well, I mean, it's by accident. I'm an accidental politician, man. I mean, it's weird that I've spent now 20 years in politics, and I never really intended to be in politics, right? But I started out running for state rep because I thought that the legislature should be doing some things it wasn't doing. Was there for 4 years, didn't mean to stay, but the congressman retired, right? The congressman retired, and we were in the middle of the Iraq War. And you're on the younger, how old were you in 2003?
Grade school, middle school.
Right, so if you remember the Iraq War, we couldn't stay and we couldn't leave. Why couldn't we stay? Because it was all based on a lie, weapons of mass destruction. Why couldn't we leave? Because literally thousands of Americans died over there and millions and trillions of dollars were spent over there. So, we were stuck. We couldn't leave and we couldn't go. I decided to run and say, look, we got to get out. We got to get out now. The whole thing's premised on a lie. And my opponents weren't prepared to say anything that strong, but people thought I was right. And so I ended up getting the DFL endorsement. This is like 2006. And I was only at the legislature for two terms. I ended up winning, and I was in Congress from 2007, got sworn in 2007, won in 2006. And I was the first person of the Muslim faith in the United States of America.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And that was 2007?
I won in 2006, and I got sworn in 2007.
Okay. So you was the first Muslim in Congress, or?
Yes.
Okay.
From any state,
From
anywhere.
any state. That's a big deal.
Well, I didn't realize that at the time, but I came to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, your father was right there with me, man. And folks would call him up to find out, is he extreme, you know what I mean? And all this stuff. And basically all he told them is what we
Well,
learned
that was
from.
the concern. They was
Oh
like
yeah.
just like extremists or what?
Well, like, was I a jihadi? Was I a terrorist? Did I believe in terrorism? They would bring up all this crazy stuff.
like when you on your campaign run,
Yeah.
this is what they trying to like critique you with.
That's what they hit me with.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of anti-Muslim hate in the race, right? And the fact that your dad was a part of the downtown council, which was a multi-faith group, actually helped my campaign because they were trying to marginalize me, because they do that. They try to say, well, this guy is an extremist. He believes in Sharia law, and I had to tell him, of course I believe in Sharia law for me, not for you.
Sharia law. Explain that.
Sharia is just Islamic law, right? So like if you're a Muslim, you don't gamble, you don't eat pork, you don't drink alcohol. That's Sharia, right? If you're a Muslim, you pray 5 times a day. You have congregational prayer on Fridays. You fast during Ramadan. This is all Sharia,
Right.
But I don't impose it on anyone else.
So that was another concern, that you would bring religion too much into.
Right, that I would try to make everybody do my religion. Right. And so, was that a real concern? I doubt it, but that's what they said.
Yeah, I doubt it too, because everybody's kind of some religion, even whoever was in charge before, but it wasn't.
Well, so here's the thing. When I first won my election back in 2006, I was on a program a lot like this one. And somebody said, if you win, will you swear in on the Quran? And I said, well, I don't know. I haven't won yet. I'm not worried about swearing in on nothing. I'm worried about trying to win.
Yeah.
And they say, can you imagine yourself winning? I said, yes. What are you swearing in on in your imagination? I said, fine. Yeah, I'll swear it on the Quran. So that happened, and a lot of hate started flooding our way.
Yeah.
A lot of national radio people were like, this is the worst thing ever, and sky's falling, and all this stuff. At the end of the day, though, I asked the Library of Congress to bring out the Quran that was used by Thomas Jefferson, right? And I swore in on that. And actually, the real swearing in, there's no book at all. You just say, raise your right hand and say, I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. That's the real one, but then there's a ceremonial one, and that's where I used the Jefferson Quran.
So you've been Muslim your whole life? Or?
Well, I took Shahada at the age of 19.
Okay.
I took Shahada at the age of 19. And there's some people who believe that everybody's Muslim, and you can, and they don't call them converts, they call them reverts, right?
Yeah.
But I know what you're asking me, and I took Shahada at the age of 19 when I was on Wayne State's campus. My kids, they take Shahada every time they do prayers, but they never had to go in front of the congregation, and your dad does does Shahada with people all the time, But I did that. I had that experience. But I'm 58 now, and so when I was 19, I was at the Muslim Center, which is on Rosa Parks and Davidson in Detroit, and came in front of everybody, and did my Shahada.
So does your work in religion ever conflict?
You know what? I respect and recognize what Islamic scholars and learned people in Islam do. I'm not an imam. I never tried to be. So the thing is, I know that my job is to represent people living in this world we're living in, and trying to help them live lives of prosperity, of success, help them to have clean air, clean water, civil and human rights. That's what I'm trying to do. I rely on spiritual advisors like your father for advice on what is the moral question here, what should we do, what is the right thing, what does God expect of us, what does the scripture teach us, what is the hadith, what is the seerah, what is the sunnah. And so I consult these things, but I never forget that I'm a secular leader, right? And that I have to respect the rights of other religious people, and it's not right for me to try to impose my religion on others. In fact, in Quran it says, you know, to me, my religion, to you, your religion. There's no, and it also says there's no compulsion in religion. Truth stands clear from falsehood. So
Has there been a time though where it was like a thought though? It was like, man, a situation or
well, I put it like this. Whenever I see people trying to push online gambling, I know what Islam teaches about it, and I know the social costs of it. So you're not ever going to see me pushing that. And but I try to understand, why does God teach us that gambling is not a good thing? Certainly not advisable for the Muslim, but what's the problem? Well, it's addictive.
Yeah.
And you ruin your life with this. And so you're not
hard to be stable.
hard to, and so I'm not going to impose my religion on anybody, but I do use the universal values embedded in Islam to try to lead my life and to do my service.
So now you're an attorney general, correct?
I am.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And when I say tell
So glad
me,
you asked.
when I say tell me, like, what is that position?
This is a great question.
What are you doing in that position, and who are you serving, and how?
Well, I serve all 5.6 million Minnesotans. I'm the attorney general for the whole state. North Minneapolis, where the mosque is, Zimbrota, Ely, Northfield, right? Rochester, Marshall, all of it. Every farm, every house, every apartment, all of it. So that's who I represent. The people of the state of Minnesota. What is the job? Well, the job basically is two basic jobs with a few things tacked onto it. One job is to represent the state. So there's the Department of Corrections. There's the Department of Health and Human Services. There's the Department of Veterans Affairs. My lawyers are the lawyers for all these state agencies. So, and then the other thing is just representing the people of the state of Minnesota. And so the Attorney General is empowered to sue on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota whenever the people of the state of Minnesota are victimized by unfair, deceptive practices in the area of business, commerce, or trade. And so any kind of scammer, any kind of rip-off artist, anybody like that. So I do a lot of consumer protection. So we sued the giant opioid manufacturers because they misled the people and led to a lot of addictions. Years ago, before I got there, we sued the tobacco companies. While I was there, we sued Comcast, we sued CenturyLink, we sued, fraudsters in the area of student loan debt, right? So we sued Minnesota College Business, Globe College, we sued them. So we're always fighting to make sure that if you are the average consumer or worker or small business person or farmer, that we're standing with you. You got somebody on your side. So for example, just the other day, there were these people who live in Northfield. They live in a place called Viking Terrace, and this is what they call a mobile home park or manufactured home housing. And the landlord bought the place and came and said, you can't have a vegetable garden. You can't have a dog pen. You can't tie the dog up outside. You can't walk around the park after 10 o'clock. You cannot have a guest over here, and all this stuff. And these are changes in the lease agreement, right? So the people called us and said they're doing this to us. We swoop in and say we're going to sue you if you don't abide by the lease, right? And so that's just one case that happened just even this week. But about like a year ago, we represented the people who were being mistreated by a guy named Stephen Meldal, a North Side landlord who had 267 families, and these families were in apartments that you wouldn't tie a dog up in, brother. In fact, there was a lot of testimony, but the judge, when he issued his decision, he said the testimony shows that people were living under biblical plague proportions. Rats, gnats, mice, rat. You know, and it just went on to categorize every other thing that the people were suffering through. We sued this guy, held him accountable, hit him for over $1 million. So I mean, these are the things we do. We are on the side of the worker, the consumer, the utility rate payer. You get a utility bill, my office represents you. We stand up to XL Energy and all the rest who are saying, we know we're going to charge you more. We want more money from you. We're like, nope, can't do that. You know, we always have to look out for the ratepayer. So this is a constant thing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what we do. We also, you know, we work with our counties a lot. So the county, so under the Minnesota law, a county can ask me to prosecute a criminal case. When I got there was one full-time prosecutor. Now there's 3 full-time prosecutors and others who do it on part-time basis.
You said the county can ask you guys to
prosecute a case.
Okay. Why would they ask you that?
Well, because over half the counties have fewer than 3 prosecutors. So let's just say you get a murderer and nobody has seen a murder in 5 or 6 years. We have staff who do them all the time, and so we can come in and help. And we just finished one in Carlton County. We did one in Todd County. We did one in Aiken County. We've done over 39 of them in 20 different counties. We've also done them in Hennepin and Ramsey, but it's not because they don't have enough lawyers. They do have enough. But they have another problem, which is sometimes when a police officer is involved in a death, they need to be able to say, we did an independent investigation and prosecution.
That's what I was going, yeah.
And in order to be able to have the investigation have credibility, sometimes they'll send it to us. So that's why we end up doing the Chauvin case. That's why we did the Potter case.
That's what I was going to ask. I was asking you why that happened, man. You beat me to my question, man.
Well, no, sorry, man. But under Minnesota statutes, we're like the prosecutor of last resort.
So the county picks you?
Yeah. Because the Attorney General represents the whole state.
Okay. So in the Mike Freeman case, he got taken off. Why was he ever even put on then?
Well, because crimes, so there's something called jurisdiction. What does jurisdiction mean? Very simple idea, meaning who gets to be involved in the case. If you don't have jurisdiction, what it's really saying is that ain't none of your business. But jurisdiction means it is your business. Yeah. So when a crime happens somewhere, jurisdiction for that case is with the county attorney. So I can't just roll in and prosecute whoever I want, unless it's something called a Medicaid fraud case. That's different. We'll put that over here. But the ordinary case, either the governor has to say the AG is going to do it, or the county says, AG, would you do it? In the case of George Floyd, it was both. So Mike Freeman calls me up. So Mike, so the horrific murder happens on May 25th. I think that was a Sunday. No, it's a Monday. It's a Monday. 26th, everybody finds out about it. 27th, people are in the streets. 28th, people are definitely in the streets. And then Mike called me up and says, hey, man, can we partner on this? I say, of course, we'll help. By that Sunday, the governor calls and says, I want you doing this case. So I'm like, fine. But we still work together with the county. And we ended up, everybody knows, we ended up convicting Derek Chauvin, and now.
So before y'all was partnering, but then it ended up being just you on the case?
I ended up being the lead prosecutor.
And that was because that was intended?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the governor decided it.
Okay. So it's not, like you said, you can't just take over any case you want to.
Nope.
So you have to somebody has to call for your help.
The county attorney has to say, would you do this case with us? Or the governor has to say, I need you to do this case.
All right. You was talking about suing people in lawsuits. Did you have a recent one, right?
We get them all the time.
Did you have one with misrepresentation for oil or something like that?
Yeah, sure. We actually, so the misrepresentation of oil, let me see.
And that's what I want to ask. How can you?
Oh, ExxonMobil, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, how can you misrepresent oil?
Okay, so ExxonMobil, there's three defendants. You know, like a lawsuit is plaintiff, defendant, right? Plaintiff sues defendant. So in this situation, you had back in 1979, scientists started saying, you know, burning all this oil is really kind of causing global climate change. And ExxonMobil, you guys are doing this. What's going on? And they're like, what do you mean what's going on? Well, we believe that what you're doing is causing global climate change. No, it isn't. It's untrue. It's a lie. And they even accused them of being Chicken Little and started saying that they were making stuff up and it really wasn't happening and it's a bigger story and there's no such thing as climate change. And then we start finding documents where they themselves are saying, oh, what we're doing is causing global climate change. We need to make our oil rigs bigger. We need to adjust because we're going to have greater weather, more severe weather events. They start acting like there's climate change without admitting that it exists. So I didn't sue them for climate change. I sued them because their product was causing a serious problem. People came and said, hey, you're causing a problem. And they constructed a campaign of lies and deceit in order to trick people. And that perpetuated the problem of greenhouse gas emissions. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that don't got nothing to do with the gas prices, though, huh?
The gas prices are I can explain gas prices, but
it's not related to that, is what I'm saying.
Not exactly, no.
Okay. Law enforcement errors.
Sure.
Can you talk to me about that? Like how do you feel about law enforcement errors? How are they happening? How do they continue to happen?
Well, before I talk about law enforcement errors, let me just talk about law enforcement. I'm law enforcement. Law enforcement are police and prosecutors and others, and they're important to live in an orderly, safe society. But you have a lot of power as a law enforcer. So if you have a lot of power, then you have to have a lot of accountability, right? So I believe that it's important if you are expected to uphold the law that you should obey it. And people like Derek Chauvin did not. In fact, Derek Chauvin had 18 prior complaints of excessive force, and he only got in trouble for like one of them. And so the problem is, yeah, law enforcement is very important. I support police. Look, if a woman is raped or somebody's murdered, we have to do something about it. We can't let it just ride.
Yeah, for sure.
But we've got to have enough cooperation and trust so that citizens will feel comfortable calling the police and say, I know something about that murder that happened up on 28th and whatever. You know what I mean? But now that trust needs to be rebuilt, because, so how do I feel about law enforcement errors? I feel that
particularly, like the one in Brooklyn Center, where they mistake the gun or mistake the taser for a gun or whatever.
Right. So look, if you make a mistake and nobody's hurt, no harm, no foul, right? Maybe your boss says, don't do that again.
Yeah.
But what if you make a mistake that you've been trained for 26 years not to make? You make exactly the mistake you were trained not to make, and someone dies. Then what? Well, look, don't listen to me. Listen to Kim Potter herself. She said, I killed a boy. I'm going to prison. That's what she said. She knows. Look, I give Kim Potter credit. She apologized. She said she was wrong. She said what she did was not right. And she's correct about that. But we had to prosecute her because it's, when you commit.
You over that case too?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you commit an inherently dangerous act that you are absolutely not supposed to make, and somebody dies as a result, we can't just act like it didn't happen, right? There you go. Can
you tell me about a time, you have a lot of success, can Can you tell me about a time that was hard for you though? Like that you know, when
Mostly.
everybody was against you, you know, when things wasn't looking up, you know, just I want you to motivate people when they going through their stuff to keep pushing. Right?
Well, you know, this is a great question, Malik, because so often you see somebody on TV and it's like, oh, that dude, he's probably making money, he's probably doing fine, and my life's hard, you know, and nobody understands me. Don't ever believe the hype. Everybody has struggles, everyone. And, you know, I don't ask for sympathy, but, you know, yeah, I've had my fair share of challenging and very difficult times. When my mother died a couple of years ago, it's a very hard time for us, right? She was the rock in the middle of our family, and her death left us highly disoriented, and we didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? But I can name countless instances where we had to learn how to overcome, right? Countless times when we lost a loved one, countless times when, you know, dreams didn't come true, right? When I ran to be the chair of the Democratic National Committee, didn't win. Think I was disappointed? Yes, I was. You better believe I was disappointed. But, you know, we suck it up and do the best we can.
Even in moments like maybe you didn't win or lose, but moments, you know, in your position, your faith, you know, did other people look at you funny? You know, did you have a hard time getting them to do things? Did you have, you know, that sort of stuff?
Well, let me tell you, you know, so look, I'm a Muslim, very proud to be a Muslim, but I've had to explain to Muslims that I represent everyone. And there's people out here in our community who do things that you don't think they should do, but they have a right to do them, and I have a duty to make sure they have their rights too. And you know, like in the LGBTQ context, I've had to explain to Muslims their ability to live their lives doesn't depend upon your approval.
You get criticism from the Muslims as well.
Sometimes
they basically saying you should be.
Yeah.
You should be going by
right.
Quran. Yeah.
I should be trying to impose Quran on others. Right. And I tell them that's not Islamic to do so.
Right.
And I also tell them people have their rights. And if you believe God is the ultimate judge of us all, if you believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? Then let them be, you know. I also had to explain, you know, when I was in Congress, some people who would speak out against anti-Muslim hate were in that community. So now I'm supposed to turn on them? I'm not doing that. You know, so, you know, yeah. I mean, look, I love my Muslim community. They're wonderful folks. They've been really good to me. But there have been times when individuals didn't agree, you know, with certain things that I've said or done. All I say is, you know, make dua for your brother, and let's not forget the bonds between us.
So what values basically are you running on?
Core value is everybody counts, everybody matters. Core value is we are all created from a single pair, and we are made to know each other, not despise each other, right? None is better than the other, except for who does the most good. And that's a contested idea because we have people who believe that, no, my tribe is better than your tribe. My tribe should have more privileges than your tribe. And so when I say everybody counts, everybody matters, and I believe that we're all children of Adam and Eve, right? Then, you know, if we're all children of Adam and Eve, then we're all brothers and sisters, right? All of humanity. But some people say, no, my tribe is superior to yours. You know, in Quran it says, Iblis said, I will not bow to him, I am better than him, right? So that spirit of I'm better than you is an idea that we've got to confront and challenge. What values am I standing for? That we're all creatures of the Creator, and we all are entitled to dignity, respect, an opportunity for prosperity, that we should care for the poor. We all have a duty to the poor, right? We have a duty to the aged. We have a duty to the orphan, right? And so these are the values that I run on.
Brittany Griner
Yeah,
Talk
Brittany
about
Griner.
Brittany Griner.
Yeah, Brittany Griner, a wonderful, talented basketball player. Apparent, she had a note that she could use CBD for her medical issue. She gets caught up over there in Russia, and now she's had her freedom taken away. Personally, I do believe that uh, Vladimir Putin is just using her as a political pawn, and he's probably trying to get some people who are Russians released in some sort of a prisoner exchange.
Yeah.
And he's using Griner to do it. And I think it's inhumane for him to do that.
And that's what I was gonna ask. Basically, why is it not? I know you might not be over that, but I'm just saying, why is that not just an easy thing to get resolved?
Well, so like I was in Congress for 12 years and was on the Foreign Affairs Committee. So I've been to Russia, I've been to Poland, I've been to Czechoslovakia, I've been to Eastern Europe. And I've certainly studied international politics. And so what'll happen is that, like, say this country sees somebody who they think is a spy, right? They'll arrest that person. And then the country they're from will be like, well, we want our person back. And then that country who has the person say, well, they're a spy. So if you want them back, what you gonna do for us? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they use them as a negotiating pawn, right? So Brittany Griner is being used as a negotiating pawn right now.
Back to I missed one question for you. What would you say makes you a fair representation of the people?
Because I'm of the people, because I've been raised by the people, because the people educated me. I'm a person who has lived the life of a person who has met struggles, raised kids, trying to be a contributor to my community. Yeah. I live in North Minneapolis still to this day, and where I shop at the Cub Food right up across from the mosque, right? People walk in there, they're like, the Attorney General in here? I'm like, of course, where else am I gonna be? I'm always surprised that people are surprised that I'm in the store just grocery shopping like anyone.
That's not normal though, if they did, they coming in there with a team,
Yeah,
bodyguards and all of that. That's not normal. So it's beautiful, but it's not normal.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, you know what? Going to the grocery store, somebody stop me and be like, well, I got a problem with this issue, or something's going on in my job, or my landlord's doing this. I mean, to me, going to the grocery store is like a campaign stop, because I get like 8 or 9, folks who want to chat, So sometimes if I need to get in and out of there, it's not that easy.
So being a black man from the inner city, you have sons.
Yep, I got 3 of them.
3 sons. When they get pulled over by the police, or have you had those conversations? And if you have, what are those like?
My father had that conversation with me. Yeah. So I had that conversation with my kids. My father told me when I was, about 15 years old, he said, look, and now this is me growing up in Detroit. He said, the police will kill you. And if they do, we might sue them and get some money, but you'll be gone. And probably nobody's going to be in trouble for it. You don't talk back to them. And even if they're wrong, you don't talk back to them. And you call me as soon as you can. If you're driving, 10 and 2. And don't do anything until they ask you to. If they ask you for your license, hand it to them. If they don't ask you for your license, 10 and 2. And don't say anything. And you have a right to remain silent. You should give your name, and you should produce your ID if they ask for it, because that's legally required, along with other, like having proof of insurance. But he told me, no matter how wrong they are, you don't want to be debating points of law with them out on the street, because, maybe you run into a good, decent person, maybe you don't.
So you give that same message to your.
Of course, absolutely. I can't imagine sometimes people go to the movie and play good money to see a horror movie. My horror movie is the officer doing something to my son. That's my nightmare.
What's some of your agendas that you're pushing? some of your biggest agendas you're pushing once elected?
Well, I'm already elected, but I'm running for re-election.
Re-elected, once
And
elected again.
and I need folks to show up for me in November. Also, August, there's a primary coming up on August 9th, but then there's an election in November, August.
How does that work, though, primary versus the 2 dates? We get confused with the dates.
And I'm glad you asked. So the primary, let me go to November. In November, it's the Democrat versus the Republican versus the Green Party. The person who's on the ballot in November is the last person standing from that one party. Now, in the primary, you might have 5 or 6 Democrats, 5 or 6 Republicans. And in that race, that's where they get weeded down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you end up with whoever wins the primary. Then you have to win the primary to get the right to run against the other party in November.
So it's important that you show up to both, though.
We need folks showing up to both.
But it's also early voting?
It's early vote. You can go vote now, right now you can go vote.
By early vote, I don't have to show up in August.
In fact, if you early vote, you probably should not show up because we don't want you voting twice because that's not legal to do. And so the thing is, although I think you can change your vote, but you need to be careful with that, because we don't want anybody voting twice. So the thing is that we need people. I'm on the ballot, and I need people to show up and support me. And here's why.
Are you DFL endorsed?
I'm a DFL endorsed.
Okay.
I'm DFL endorsed, labor endorsed, nurses endorsed, all kind of endorsed. If it's an endorsement involving human rights for everybody, economic rights for everybody, that they're supporting me.
Trap right endorsed too.
Huh?
Trap right endorsed too.
That's right, brother. That's what I need. But let me tell you, man. So what are we gonna do? If you support me for Attorney General, you could expect me to stand up for your economic rights. So if you're a young person, you might be a victim of wage theft. You can call me. I'll sue the employer, get your money back. If you're a renter, you can call me. I'll make sure your landlord's fair to you. If you're buying things like internet service provider, whatever, you can call us. We will protect your rights there. We will stand up for you when a corporate giant is rolling over you. What else? Your human rights, your civil rights. We will stand for your right to vote, for your right for personal privacy and autonomy of your own body. We'll stand up for your right to be safe. I've prosecuted over 39 murderers and rapists, and done a lot of appeals too. But also we believe in mercy too, Malik, because we have a statewide expungement program. So if you kept your nose clean, you might have been in trouble before, but if you got you're right on the right path again, you can call us. We'll try to help you get that old record cleaned up.
Is that for anything or?
Well, it's certain things you can't get expunged, but a lot of things you can. Like an old dope case, you can get expunged. An old theft case, you can get expunged. There's a lot of cases you can get expunged. Like a sex case, you might not be able to get that expunged. The law will say you cannot expunge.
Is case by case as far as like violence or anything like that?
Yeah, but there's some offenses, violent offenses, you can get expunged. And so here's the other thing. I'm also on the pardon board. And you can ask for a pardon. A pardon is better than an expungement. How are they different? Well, expungement, we seal the records. It's still there. The police have it, but a landlord does not have it. An employer does not have it. That's what's with an expungement. Mm-hmm. Now, with a pardon, gone, poof, it's over.
How do you apply for that?
It's called, you just got to go on Minnesota pardon petition. Just Google it.
Okay.
Pardon petition, Minnesota pardon petition. Fill it out, bam. And there have been some really great people who do a lot of great things for the community who come in front of the pardon board. Like some people know Mkala, what's the name? The brother, Shaka and Mkala, went and he got one. And, and people didn't even know. That people didn't know he ever been in trouble, but years ago he was. And so he got that straightened out. And there's others as well.
You got a son in politics.
Yeah, Jeremiah's in politics. How old is Jeremiah? Jeremiah's 31 or 2, no, 32 must be.
What position he holds?
He's a city council member in North Minneapolis, 5th Ward. Yeah, he won his election against first it was when he first ran, he ran against a guy named Blong Yang.
So he's not up for re-election right now.
No, and then when he ran, he beat a guy named Victor Martinez and Crystal Porter. And so he'll run not this year, but the year after.
He trying to make it to your position?
I don't know. My son carves his own path, right? So your dad is an awesome guy, but do you want to be a imam?
I mean, possibly.
You're not against it.
I'm not against it, but I'm figuring myself out.
That's the thing. See, that's how he is. He's like, maybe I will. So my son, for example, used to be and still is an artist. Usually when I'd see him, he'd have paint on his clothes and getting up on the scaffold and painting pictures on walls and stuff. He was an artist. But then he got active in some political stuff and was protesting here and there and was painting about what the struggles that he was witnessing. And then one day decided to run for office. And so that's how he got into it. I never said, you need to do this and you got to follow my footsteps. No, he made his own mind up, and that made it better.
Yeah, yes, that's genuine. You love it,
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to end up quitting it.
Right.
Especially our generation, millennials. Millennials will end up quitting something if they don't love it. Sure.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you do what you love, you never go to work.
Yeah. Tell me a fun fact about Keith. Some people don't know, some they're going to be shocked about. Give me something.
I've been learning to play the cello.
Okay.
I got one day I'll play a tune for y'all, inshallah.
How you doing that? You taking classes?
Yep. My teacher is a very nice lady, and she's, her name is Jess Theus, and she's a very accomplished cellist in her own right, and I'm trying to study up under her. Now, I had to take a break for a while, but now I'm getting back into it. But I've been practicing. And I really enjoy it. It's great. I started when the pandemic started. And then the Floyd case happened, so then I had to put it all on suspension. So I haven't really been practicing that much. I know I haven't been taking lessons that much recently, but I've been practicing consistently.
All right, well, yeah, I appreciate you coming today.
Hey, man,
I appreciate
it.
If you could lead the people off with something, lead the people off. Let them know where to find you, especially.
Yeah, well, I just want to tell everybody, it is so important to be true to yourself. Don't try to be anyone else because they're already taken. Be who God put you here to be. Remember that you're absolutely unique in this world. Nobody like you was ever here before. No, after you gone, nobody will be like you again. People can, if you spit into a tube, we can pick you out of billions of people. You're unique. So if you're that unique, doesn't it stand to reason that you're here to accomplish something that only you can accomplish? And if you're willing to try to do it, you can make the world a better place. But it all starts with you doing you. You can't be like mom, you can't be like dad, you can't be like uncle, you can't be like Michael Jordan or some celebrity. Pursue your own truth, and it'll lead to great fulfillment and happiness. In the meantime, I need folks to give me a call if they feel that they've been treated unfairly here in the marketplace. 651-296-3353, and give us a call. And definitely look up your pardon petition. And if you want your record sealed, contact the Minnesota Attorney General's office. Seal my records.
There you go. Appreciate you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, young man.
Thank you.